Hello, Rollers. I hope today finds you blessed and prosperous. It's Lady TrenettWilson, your lecturer and social historian. I wanted to lecture today about the decision that's sitting before the Supreme Court because there's been a lot of talk about civil rights and is the 14th Amendment being overturned and what in the world is going on. So let's get into our lecture today. Thank you all for joining me. I want to also welcome you if this is your first time. I hope that you enjoy the lecture and learn a lot. I don't want to put any politics on this. As you all know, here on this channel, I am not a Republican. I am not a Democrat. I'm an independent. I vote according to the issues. So, what are the issues that are truly affecting Black people because of this Supreme Court decision? So let's talk about this. So first of all, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 is where this is kind of stemming from, and you're going to be hearing a lot of people talking about the Civil Rights Act, and we're getting our votes rolled back. So what is the Civil Rights Act? Well, in 1964, it was a landmark piece of legislation that outlawed discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. Yes, you heard that right. 1964. We're still fighting for civil rights. It ended segregation in public places and it banned employment discrimination as well. And it was a really a direct result of decades of protests and people really standing up for their rights. But there is a key part of this. The act gave the federal government the power to step in when states were not protecting people's civil rights, especially Black Americans in the South. So that's very, very major. Now, this was 100 years almost after the Civil War. So it's just amazing that we were still having to fight for our rights. Now, 1 year later, in 1965, they added on to it the Voting Rights Act. So you had the Civil Rights Act, which was the overarching law, and then the Voting Rights Act, which was a amendment or a part of that law, an act. And it really was targeting those people who were discriminating. Jim Crow was real big back in the South at that time, and they had literacy tests where you had to be able to read in order to vote. They had poll taxes where you had to be able to pay. And then they had gerrymandering, which is a big conversation around redistricting that's going on right now. So now let's fast forward to what's going on with the Supreme Court and what it is reviewing today. This case that they're reviewing, it's a Louisiana case. It's Louisiana versus Calais. It all began in 2022 when LA withdrew a map with Louisiana withdrew a map with only one Black major district. Now, one stop in Louisiana, you will realize that the state is a third Black. So how can only be one district? That means they only have one representative. This was considered a Voting Right Act violation. So they had to redraw it and they had to add another district. But the white people were angry and they sued, saying it created a gerrymandering situation based on race. So they, in essence, are using the very act that we're talking about, this Voting Rights Act, to say that you can't do that because it's based on race. So that's basically what's going on. Now, Section 2 of the 14th Amendment was really there to protect formerly enslaved people and guarantee equal representation. So does Black mean because the representatives is Black that they are truly representing Black communities? And see, that's kind of been the whole issue and the argument, because some Black people would contend that Black communities have not certainly been made better in the last 20 years as Black representation. We can look at the crime, we can look at the violence, we can look at the lack of jobs, we can look at the education system going down within Black communities, all the while Black people being leaders in those communities. Now, y'all don't go down in my comments and talk crazy to me and saying, oh, I'm a sellout and all this. If we can't talk about these Black issues on this channel, where can we talk about these issues? We have to be able to hear both sides. Now, will Black people better stand up for Black people and fight for Black people? Absolutely. Just like you see Asian people fighting for Asian people, Latino people fighting for Latino people. But in the grand scheme of things, when you look at what is best for communities, that's what we need to be looking at. When my kid goes into a school, I want to know they're not going to get hit upside the head, bullied until they want to unalive themselves, teachers messing with them and touching with them. So we have a lot of problems within all communities. But when it comes to this voting and redistricting, and does Black people faces represent Black causes and Black issues, I don't know. I see a whole lot of Black people out here crashing out behind illegal immigrants who are taking housing, who are taking education seats, and all kinds of things from Black communities. So I think we have to redefine what the Black community platform is. What is it? What are we fighting for? What is important to us? Y'all put it down below. I really want to know. I don't want to argue with people and be called names. I really want to talk about this because this is a big issue. Now, do white people, do things that's best for Blacks? No. We've seen that in history, but are all white people racist? No, we've also seen that in history. White people stood alongside Black people during the civil rights movement, and even before that, they were abolitionists, they gave money. So we have to look at this thing soberly and step outside of the emotional bubble that politicians like to keep us in and really look at what is helping Black communities. So I think the Supreme Court even reviewing anything about the Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act, I think that's dangerous because it gets into unfair representation. A whole lot of white people can't represent Black people and don't know what our, issues are. That's why we need to define them so that whatever color, because let me tell you something, we are voting at 60%, but we are less than 12% in this country. So our voice is very small. So when we divide each other and you only hear a splatter here and a splatter there, then our power is diluted anyway. So we need to make sure that the Black people who are representing us truly represent us. So this is a very major case. There's been a lot of talk around voter suppression even right now, but things like illegals voting, deceased people on rolls, and mail-in ballots that are messed up. That is not voter suppression. We want to, be able to verify your address, verify your identity, meaning who you are, and if you're a citizen. Now, if you are a person who has committed a crime, like a felony, and you still can't vote, I don't think that's fair. If you do your time and it's a number of years, you paid your dues, you paid your fees, then your voice should be able to be heard because you have been most affected by most people, as far as, being in jail. So, stop all this. I think we need to really look at this soberly. So what will happen um, as a result of this decision? We don't know when the decision could come down, but this is three things that they could potentially say. Number one, they could say that modern voter suppression does trigger Section 2, meaning states that pass unfair laws could lose seats in Congress. So basically what they're saying is if Louisiana the Black redistricting, by adding one district and it being solely race based, it is in essence going against Section 2. And if they do that, they'll strike it down and it could open up other districts to redrawing their districts because they drew them based on race. This is dangerous precedence because even though we don't have the best sitting up there, we do have somebody sitting up there. If they redraw these districts, we won't. So that's an issue. But we do need to hold our politicians' feet to the fire. We need to ask them real questions, and we need to stop caping for everybody but ourselves. I really believe that. Number two, they could avoid enforcing Section 2 altogether, continuing the long history. Most of the time, this law has been ignored. They no foul, we don't have that many black people in Congress anyway, so it hadn't been an issue. But as more populations are being elevated within the political realm, meaning Latinos, Asian people, black people's voices are being diluted more and more. So this fight is not just coming from white people, it's coming from these other races as well. But yet we are just here arguing. We need to have a plan. What is the one voice that we can talk about this, y'all? We need to come together and let's talk. You know what? I'm going to go live and we're going to talk about the issues impacting black communities and how we can come together and how we can get on this same page so that our voice will stop being diluted. So I'll keep my eyes open, y'all. I'll keep you updated on what the Supreme Court decides. In the meantime, y'all, get active locally. What are your issues locally? Is it taxes? Is it holes in your street? Is it crime? Y'all, we need to know what's going on. So when we have our conversation, we can come not with emotion, but with facts. So I thank you for joining me. I hope you learned a little bit more about the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, what's going on with the Supreme Court. Leave your comments down below. Are you active in politics? Not from an emotional standpoint, but from the standpoint of what is impacting your communities, your schools, your health, your finances, your safety. These things are things that are truly important. Now, as you know, my lectures are for educational and entertainment purposes only, and the Fair Act use is in effect. And this Friday, episode 2 of Hunter's Point, my historical audiobook, will be released. I am so excited. Y'all, thank y'all for supporting episode 1. Y'all keep watching. We're storytelling in all different types of ways and bringing a black narrative from a different point of view. So I'll see you on another great episode of Royal Black and Elite. Click down below and don't forget, like, share, and subscribe, and leave your comment. Thank you. Have a great day.